I think that's what will happen with Jerome Powell and also with Lisa Cook. That's sort of the chatter around financial regulator circles, my friends in the general Federal Reserve space, and monitoring exactly who those people are on the Fed board across the country and in DC. And one of the bases for this is that the courts are judging the Fed to continue to have a special relationship with the executive branch. And the expectation, the hope, certainly on Wall Street, is that that's going to hold into January 21st when Lisa Cook has her hearing. So we'll probably hear about the next nominee for Jay Powell going into that event. That's my base case.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us this morning with Henrietta Treyz, Alexis Christophers.
You know, getting lost in the sauce, Henrietta, is we could be looking at another government shutdown at the end of this month. How possible do you think that might be? And boy, oh boy, what does that do to an already messy start to 2026?
Yeah. 2026 is a hot mess. I love to look at the calendar. It's very instructive. And if you're an investor, follow the legislative schedule. It gives you a lot of data sets that you would otherwise, have to parse votes and things like that for. But just look at what we're going to do in the Senate this week. We got to debate the War Powers Resolution literally all week. The president lost 5 Republicans last week, and as a result, we're going to be on the floor doing that the entire time. Then the Senate goes on recess, and boom, we're at January 30th and a government shutdown. Meanwhile, you have contentions rising over ICE, the president requesting a 50% increase to the Defense Department, threatening Greenland. There are actions across the board, and losing Tom Tillis, who, by the way, did not vote against the War Powers Resolution, but like some of the other members, is a real problem for the president. It risks jamming up not just the federal nominations process, but the entire legislative agenda that Trump has. So going into the prospects of a shutdown January 30th is it's a 25% odd scenario and rising. And that's high for me. Usually I'm at 5%. I don't believe them when they say they're going to shut it down. But this time there's a lot on the table, and it's an election year. So there's a lot of reasons to be wary of that. 25% is a big number. And in terms of the Fed and what the Fed's going to do. We know we're going to get new leadership come May, but where are your odds for interest rate cuts this year, and how many? Because we know that J.P. Morgan recently shifted their stance. Right now, they're calling for no cuts this year. Well, look at what's about to happen with the tariffs. The companies have squeezed all the margins they can out of productivity, out of labor. They've stopped hiring. They're not increasing wages. Now you really have the continuation of tariffs. And by the way, there are tons still to come across pharmaceuticals, semiconductors, critical minerals. Right. There are no deals reached with the EU, with India, with Japan, South Korea. There's a lot of work still to do. And so to have the tariffs continue to eat away at the number one thing that voters are concerned about is the biggest headwind. And so for inflation, Trump is plainly threatening Powell, which serves him, but it's because of the risk of not cutting interest rates because of the tariffs.
Hey, Henrietta, I gotta be quick here. You're just so happy this morning. It's just so much joyous news from Henrietta Treyz. Henrietta, the job gloom over the weekend. Job formation in 2025. Jobs formation since the Rose Garden moment in April. It's terrible. How is that treated in Washington? How do our elected officials look at those tweets of non-job formation?
It's just so strikingly obvious. You can see it every single data set you look at, from jobs to the approval rating of the president to Republican prospects in the midterm elections. Every single chart goes straight down, and it starts on Liberation Day.
Like
There's
bingo.
one thing and one thing only, and it's the tariffs.
Well, but quickly here. What's the reaction of the White House? The president's, whatever anybody thinks about him, he's a very astute politician.
I'm just going to say what my thesis is. I don't think the president can put tariffs on if the Supreme Court takes them off. I am out of consensus. I know it's controversial, but we're looking at Liberation Day 2.0 if the Supreme Court strikes down IEEPA. The confusion of migrating to Section 122, Section 338, it's not a plausible midterm election cycle inflation narrative for the president to pursue. So I think if the Supreme Court strikes these tariffs down, he's got to come off.